Mira worked at a small diner on the edge of a quiet desert town. Every day looked the same. The sun rose hot, the wind carried dust, and the roads stayed mostly empty. She poured coffee, served pancakes, and cleaned tables. The only music came from the old radio near the kitchen, which played soft tunes from years ago. Nothing much ever changed until the boy started showing up. He came in one evening just before closing time. He looked about 10 years old, thin, quiet, and wearing clothes to sizes too big. His shoes were worn out, and he had no bag, no money, nothing. He walked in, looked around nervously, and sat at table 7 right near the window. Mira waited for him to say something, maybe to ask for a menu or water. But he stayed silent, just staring at the table. After a few minutes, Mira brought him a glass of water and said gently, "You okay, kid?" No answer. He just looked up with large, dark eyes. Then he nodded, just once, that night. Mira told the cook to make an extra plate of food, grilled cheese and fries, something simple. She brought it over and placed it in front of the boy. This was a mistake order, she said, even though it wasn't. If you want, you can have it. It'd just go to waste. The boy looked at the food like it was treasure. He gave her a small smile but said nothing. He ate slowly, carefully, like he wasn't used to warm meals. After he finished, he stood up, gave a polite little bow, and walked out into the night. He came back the next evening, same time, same table. Mira didn't ask questions. She just brought him water and, later, another plate of food. This time it was chicken and mashed potatoes. And then he came again, and again, always at sunset, always silent, always sitting at table 7. He never caused trouble, never spoke, never even left crumbs on the table. But Mira couldn't stop thinking about him. Where did he sleep? Where were his parents? Why didn't he talk? One day, she asked Sheriff Dale if any child had been reported missing. He checked. Nothing matched. The boy was a mystery. Some people in town noticed. The gas station clerk said the boy gave him a strange feeling. The librarian said she saw him staring at the stars for hours. A few others whispered that he wasn't normal, that maybe he was not from here. Mira ignored them. On the 6th night, something strange happened. It was quiet, as usual. Mira brought the boy a plate of spaghetti. He nodded and began eating, slowly. But then, he paused. He took a napkin, pulled a pen from Mira's apron pocket. She didn't even see him do it, and began to draw. It was a symbol, not a picture. A strange round shape with lines that curved and crossed like an ancient map. Mira leaned in to look, curious. "What's that?" The boy didn't answer. But as she watched, the symbol began to glow. Just for a second, a soft blue light pulsed from the lines, like they were alive. Mira blinked. The glow faded. The napkin looked normal again. She looked at the boy, startled. Did you do that?" He tilted his head slightly. Then he put the pen down, folded the napkin, and slid it across the table to her. That night, after closing, Mira sat in the empty diner, holding the napkin. She tried to draw the symbol again on another sheet. Nothing happened. She pressed it under a light. Still nothing. Just ink. She didn't know what to make of it. She thought about calling someone, maybe the sheriff again. But what would she say? A boy made a napkin glow. It sounded crazy. She folded the napkin carefully and tucked it into her pocket. Just then, she heard a noise from outside. She walked to the front window. The street was empty. The wind had picked up, carrying sand across the road. The sky above was full of stars, bright, sharp, almost too bright. And then she saw it, the boy, standing on the roof of a gas station across the road, looking up at the stars. How did he get up there? And why was he staring like that, so still, so focused? Mira opened the door and called out, "Ben." That's what she had started calling him, Ben. He never corrected her. He never said a word. Ben turned to face her, then climbed down the side of the building slowly, like he had done it 100 times. He walked across the road and stood in front of the diner. "Ben, are you okay?" He looked at her. Then he pointed to the sky. His hand moved slowly, tracing the stars as if drawing a pattern in the air. Then he touched her hand, just lightly. A warm pulse ran up her arm. Not painful, not scary, just strange. Like a whisper through her bones, Ben stepped back. He looked tired now, his eyes heavy. Without a word, he turned and walked off into the night. Mira locked the diner and sat back down at table 7. Her hand shook as she touched the napkin again. Something wasn't right. This boy wasn't just lost. He wasn't just hungry. He was something else. And she had a feeling her quiet little life was about to change forever. The morning sun came slowly over the horizon, painting the sky with soft orange light. Mira sat at table 7, holding the folded napkin in her hands. The strange symbol drawn by the silent boy Ben still puzzled her. She had stayed awake most of the night, thinking about it. It had glowed. She wasn't imagining it. And the touch Ben gave her, it wasn't normal. It felt like a soft wave of warmth running through her skin, straight to her heart. But how? Why? The bell over the diner door rang. It was Lucy, her coworker. "You're in early," Lucy said, putting on her apron. "Did you sleep here?" "Sort of," Mira replied quietly. She didn't want to talk too much about Ben. Most people didn't understand. They thought he was just a weird kid. Some even said he was dangerous. But Mira knew he wasn't. He was quiet, yes, strange, yes, but dangerous, never. Mira slipped the napkin into her pocket. She had made a decision. She was going to protect him, no matter what. That evening, Ben returned at same time, same table. But something was different. His clothes were even dirtier than usual, his hair messy. His eyes, though calm, looked more tired than before, like he hadn't slept. Mira served him a bowl of warm soup. He nodded in thanks. "Are you okay?" she asked softly, sitting across from him. Ben stared at her, then reached into his own pocket. He pulled out another napkin. On it, a new symbol, this one more detailed, with tiny dots and lines like stars. As he slid it across the table, it pulsed again just once with the same faint blue light. Mira's breath caught in her chest. "What are you?" she whispered. Ben didn't answer. Later that night, Mira stood behind the counter, staring at the 2 napkins. She had hidden the second one under her notebook. She didn't want Lucy or anyone else to see. Then, the front door opened. With a soft creak, 2 men walked in. Not from town, she could tell right away. They wore clean black jackets, shiny boots, and dark glasses even though it was evening. Mira said, trying to stay calm, "Kitchen's closing soon, but I can get you coffee." One of the men smiled, but it didn't feel warm. "We're not here to eat," he said. His voice was smooth, practiced. "We're looking for someone." A boy, quiet, wears old clothes, doesn't speak. Mira's heart began to pound. She forced a smile. "Haven't seen anyone like that." The second man pulled out a small device. It beeped softly as he waved it around the room. "It says he was here," he said, pointing at the screen. Mira's hands moved under the counter. She turned off the lights in the kitchen behind her, an old trick to hide movement in the back. She prayed Ben wasn't in the storeroom. The first man stepped closer. "If you see him, let us know." "He's not safe." Mira narrowed her eyes. "Doesn't seem like you're the police." "We're not," the man replied, "but we handle things like him." Mira stayed quiet. The 2 men exchanged a glance, then slowly turned and left. She rushed to the storeroom. Ben was sitting on a crate, hidden behind a stack of flour bags, his eyes wide, his small hands gripping his knees. "You heard them, didn't you?" she whispered. Ben nodded. "I don't believe them," she said firmly. "I don't care what they say. You're safe with me." He looked at her, then slowly raised his hand and pointed at her chest. She felt the warmth again, like before, but stronger. Her heartbeat slowed, her breathing calmed. Something passed between them, silent but clear, trust. Later that night, Mira's phone buzzed, a blocked number, 1 message. "He chose you." She stared at the screen, her hands trembling. Who sent this? What did it mean? Ben was asleep in the storeroom. She walked back and checked on him. He had wrapped himself in an old diner blanket, curled up like a small cat. She sat beside him. "Who are you really, Ben?" she whispered. "And Why me? The next morning was not quiet at dawn, before she even opened the diner. The ground began to shake, cups rattled on the shelves, a deep humming filled the air. Mira ran to the window. In the distance, coming fast, were helicopters black, large, and heavy, more than 5. They circled the sky like vultures, then began to descend right in front of the diner. Kicking up clouds of sand. Doors opened. Men and women in black armor stepped out clean, sharp, cold. They were not military. They wore no flags. Their weapons were strange, not like guns Mira had ever seen. One of them stepped forward and spoke into a device. Subject Oren, we know you're inside. Come out now. No one needs to get hurt. Subject Oren. Mira turned to look at Ben, who had quietly appeared beside her, his face calm, his eyes glowing faintly blue. You're Oren, she asked. Ben didn't answer, but she already knew. They weren't here for a lost boy. They were here for something else, and that something had chosen her. The sound of the helicopters still echoed in the air. Mira stood frozen at the diner's front window, eyes wide. The black aircraft had landed in a perfect line across the road, just outside her diner. Dust and wind swirled around them. People in town were gathering in the distance. Some took pictures. Others watched silently, unsure of what was going on. Mira didn't care about the crowd. Her eyes stayed on the figures stepping out of the helicopter stall, serious, and wearing black armor with no flag or name. Their faces were hidden behind silver visors. Their boots made sharp sounds on the ground as they walked closer. Inside the diner, Ben stood beside her, still silent. You're Oren, Mira whispered again, turning to him. That's what they called you? Ben gave a slow nod. His eyes were calm, but something in them had changed. He wasn't afraid. He was ready. Mira quickly pulled him behind the counter. Her hands were shaking, but she tried to think clearly. They think you're dangerous. They're not just looking for a boy. They're after something else. You. Ben reached into his pocket and pulled out the napkin again, the one with the second glowing symbol. He laid it flat on the counter. The symbol began to pulse, just like before. Mira leaned in. What are they trying to do to you? Ben touched her hand gently. In a flash, Mira saw something not with her eyes, but in her mind. She saw a large metal room, cold. Bright lights above. Ben Oren was there, surrounded by machines. People were studying him, running tests. He looked smaller, afraid. He wasn't free. Mira gasped and pulled her hand back. They captured you before, she said, and you escaped. Ben nodded once. Outside, one of the soldiers stepped forward, holding a strange device. He spoke through a speaker. Subject Oren, step out now. The signal has been traced to this location. We will enter if you do not respond. Mira looked at the napkin again. The symbol now had small moving lights in it, like tiny stars shifting in a pattern. What is this thing? She asked. Ben picked up the napkin, folded it neatly, and handed it to her. Then he pointed at her chest. The message, Mira whispered. You gave it to me. Ben nodded. The glass windows of the diner began to hum lightly. The lights flickered. Mira stepped back from the counter. Something strange was happening. The floor under her feet gave off a soft vibration, like energy moving beneath the building. Ben slowly walked to the center of the diner and raised his hand. Light began to shine from his palm, a soft blue light, growing stronger with each second. Mira. Lucy's voice called from the kitchen. What's happening? Get out the back door, Mira shouted. Go now. But what about go? Lucy didn't argue. She ran. Ben turned to Mira. His eyes glowed completely blue now. Outside, the soldiers moved closer. Mira grabbed her coat and walked over to him. If you stay, they'll take you again. Ben looked up at her, then touched the front door. A blue circle appeared on the glass, glowing bright. And suddenly everything stopped. The sound of the helicopters paused. The lights stopped flickering. The dust in the air froze. Even the soldiers outside stood still like statues. Only Mira and Ben could move. What is this? She whispered. Ben pointed again at the sky through the window. The clouds were frozen mid-move. The sun rays like beams locked in place. Time had stopped. Ben walked to the door and opened it. Mira followed Dot as they stepped outside. The world felt unreal. Everything was quiet, like they were in a painting. Then Ben turned to her and raised both hands. Light poured out of him, not just blue, but white, gold, and silver. The ground below. The diner glowed with patterns, circles, and ancient shapes. A symbol appeared under Mira's feet, matching the one on the napkin. Suddenly, in her mind, Mira heard a voice. Not Ben's voice exactly, but a soft version of it, warm and clear. You are the anchor, the memory, the heart. She closed her eyes, tears forming. Why me? She asked. Dot. The voice replied softly. Because you gave, without asking. You protected, without fear. Then time started again. The noise of the helicopters returned. The wind blew dust across her face. The soldiers blinked, confused. Ben stepped back inside the diner. Mira turned and faced the soldiers. One of them pointed his weapon at her. Where's the subject? Mira didn't move. He's gone. He was inside this building. The man shouted. Mira said calmly. Now he's not. The soldier's device beeped again. Signal lost. They looked around. Then back at Mira. What did he give you? The lead soldier asked. Mira smiled. Just breakfast, every night. The soldier looked at her for a long time, then turned around. The black helicopters lifted off, one by one, and flew into the sky. That night, Mira sat at table 7 alone. She held the folded napkin in her hand. The symbol on it no longer glowed, but she didn't need it to. She felt the warmth still in her chest, the soft energy Ben had left behind. Lucy came back in quietly. They're gone, she said. Mira nodded. Was that kid really not human? Lucy asked. Mira thought for a moment. Then she replied, he was more human than most people I've ever met. She stood up and walked to the counter, the napkin still in her hand. Out the window, stars filled the night sky. One of them blinked a little brighter than the others, like a signal, somewhere out there. Ben was free. The stars were brighter than usual. Mira sat on the diner roof with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. The wind was cool, and the town below was quiet again. The helicopters were gone. The men in black had disappeared. But Ben was gone too. She looked up, her eyes searching the sky. Somewhere out there, he had returned, maybe to a ship, maybe to another world, maybe not far at all. She didn't know. All she knew was that everything felt different now, inside her chest. She could still feel it, that strange warmth, a calm, steady pulse. It wasn't just emotion. It was something real, something alive. She remembered his voice from when time had stopped. Not loud, but clear. You are the anchor. The memory. The heart. What did that mean? The next morning, Mira opened the diner as usual. But something was changing. People came in more than usual. Tourists, strangers. Even a group of hikers who claimed they felt drawn to the town. The air felt charged, as if something important had happened, but no one could explain it. Even Sheriff Dale stopped by. You all right? He asked. You look tired. Mira nodded. Just a strange week. He glanced at table 7. Haven't seen that boy lately? Mira smiled. Softly. Me neither. The sheriff didn't push further. He sipped his coffee and left. But as the day went on, Mira noticed something odd. Her hands. Whenever she touched metal, like the coffee machine or the cash drawer, it hummed, just lightly, like a quiet sound beneath the surface. Not everyone noticed, but she did. And sometimes, when she looked at someone, a flash of thought came to her mind, images, emotions. She saw Lucy remembering her sick mother. She saw a traveler missing his lost dog. She didn't know how, but she felt these things. It was like Ben had opened something in her. That night, she sat in the storeroom where Ben used to sleep. The old blanket was still there, folded neatly. She found the 2 napkins he had drawn on and placed them side by side. The symbols no longer glowed, but now she saw them differently. The first one looked like a signal. The second one looked like a map. Then something happened. As her fingers touched both napkins at once. Her mind filled with light. A memory, but not hers. She stood inside a large round room. The walls were silver, glowing faintly. Strange machines blinked quietly, and soft lights floated in the air like fireflies. Around her stood tall beings not human, but not frightening. They had soft faces, peaceful eyes, and long robes that shimmered like stars. She was not Mira in this memory. She was someone else, but she still felt like herself. One of the beings stepped forward and held out a glowing sphere. A voice spoke not in words, but in feeling. You will be the seed, the one who remembers. You will be born human, but carry our code. When the boy comes, the signal will wake. Then the vision faded. Mira blinked and gasped. She was back in the storeroom, sweat on her forehead, her hands shaking. What am I? She whispered. The next few days passed slowly. Mira kept the diner open, but her heart wasn't in it. She couldn't stop thinking about the memory. Was it real? A dream? A message? More strangers came to the diner, quiet people, kind people. Some with eyes that seemed bright, some sat at table 7 and simply waited. When Mira asked what they were doing, they said, "We were called. We don't know why." And then they left without ordering. One evening, Mira stepped outside to get air. The wind was warm, but the sky had a strange glow near the horizon, like a storm was coming not of rain, but of something else. Then she heard it, a quiet voice. Behind her. You saw it, didn't you? She turned. A woman stood in the shadow beside the building. She was tall, with silver hair tied back in a braid. Her clothes looked like simple travel gear, but her eyes were unusual light gray with tiny golden flecks. Who are you? Mira asked. My name doesn't matter, the woman said. I've been watching. You're starting to wake up. Mira stared at her. What does that mean? You carry something. The woman replied. Not just a message, a key. The boy passed it to you. You mean Ben. The woman smiled gently. He was never a boy. Not truly. He was a memory keeper, the last of his kind. He couldn't survive long on this planet. But he passed the code. And you were chosen to carry it forward. Why me? Mira whispered again. Because you fed him when he had nothing. You gave when others turned away. That is what made you worthy. Mira looked down at her hands. They still hummed faintly. What am I supposed to do now? She asked. The woman stepped forward and placed something in Mira's hand. It was a small, flat device. No buttons, no lights, just smooth stone, warm to the touch when the time comes. The woman said, This will show you what to do. And when will that be? The woman looked up at the stars. Soon. The signal is already spreading. Others will come, some to help, some to stop you. Then she turned and walked into the shadows. Mira wanted to call after her, but something told her to let her go. Later that night, Mira stood at table 7 again. She placed the stone device in the center. For a moment, it pulsed just once with that soft blue light she had seen so many times before. She smiled. Ben was gone, but his mission wasn't, and she wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was something more, something ancient, something chosen. And soon, the world would know. The diner looked the same on the outside. Red sign, silver walls, dusty windows, but inside, everything had changed. Mira was no longer just serving food. She was watching, listening, waiting. Each day, new faces appeared. Some came in groups, others alone. Most of them ordered nothing. They sat, looked around, stayed for a short time, then left. Some of them touched the table Ben once sat at. Table 7 and closed their eyes, like they were remembering something far away. Lucy noticed too. Your place feels different, she said one morning while wiping down the counter. Almost like people are visiting a church instead of a diner. Mira nodded. They're looking for something. Lucy raised an eyebrow. And you? What are you looking for? Mira smiled softly. Truth. That evening, just as the sun began to set, the power flickered. All the lights in the diner blinked. Twice, then came back on. The radio behind the counter made a strange, high-pitched sound before going silent. Mira stood still. A moment later, the bell above the door rang. Two people entered. They looked like travelers, simple clothes, dusty boots, but their eyes were sharp, watching every corner of the room. A small circle tattoo glowed faintly on one of their hands. The man spoke first. "We came for the signal. We felt it." Mira nodded. "It's here." The woman stepped closer. "Then you are the anchor?" Mira didn't understand everything yet, but she answered with calm, "Yes." The man placed a round stone, just like hers, on the table. It lit up for a second. When it touched the wood, "Others are coming," he said. "Not all of them are like us." That night, Mira locked the doors early. She stood alone in the dark diner, staring at table 7. The stone in her hand pulsed again, one slow beat, like a quiet heartbeat. It didn't feel dangerous. It felt like a call. Suddenly, a sound broke. The silence, a soft knock on the back door. Mira opened it slowly. It wasn't a person. It was a floating device, small, metal, round, and glowing. It hovered in the air like a drone. But it wasn't from Earth. She could feel it. The device beeped once. A soft blue light scanned her face. Then it spoke, not with sound, but directly into her mind. "The enemy has traced the signal. Prepare." And then it flew away. Mira closed the door and leaned against it, breathing hard. Just before dawn, they came, not in black armor this time. This group was quiet, hidden. They moved through the trees near the diner, wearing gray suits that bent. The light around them, if Mira hadn't been watching, she wouldn't have seen them at all. But the stone warned her. She stood behind the counter, calm, waiting. One of them entered. He wore a gray hood, and his face looked almost human, but his eyes were silver, and his skin had a faint glow. "We know what you carry," he said. "You don't understand what it really is." "I understand enough," Mira replied. "The signal must end," he said coldly. "If it spreads, more will come. More from beyond. You cannot protect this planet." Mira reached under the counter and pressed the old coffee machine. It wasn't for coffee anymore. Ben had changed it before he left. A hum filled the room. The stone on table 7 began to glow. The symbol pulsed bright blue. The stranger stepped back. "You activated it?" Mira nodded. "It's not just a signal. It's a door, and I'm the key." More gray-cloaked figures appeared outside. But as they moved forward, light burst from the windows. The diner was surrounded by a glowing field of shield. Ben had built it into the structure using her heartbeat. Her energy. The strangers couldn't get in. Mira stood tall. "This place is a sanctuary now." The first man narrowed his silver eyes. "You are only human." Mira smiled. "That's what makes me dangerous." Inside the diner, the light settled. People began to arrive, those who had been waiting. Some walked, some came in old cars. A few just appeared, teleported from somewhere else. They were not all human. Some had different skin, glowing eyes, strange clothes, but they were peaceful. The gray-cloaked strangers outside couldn't enter. One of the visitors stepped forward, a short being with smooth green skin and kind eyes. "You did it," he said to Mira. "You completed the anchor." "I still don't know what I am," she replied. "You're the heart," he said. "A place where memory lives." That's all Ben needed. A place where the truth could grow. Outside, the strangers disappeared. They had failed. But Mira knew this wasn't over. Ben had told her Earth is the last safe place. That meant others would come. Some in peace, some in war. But now, thanks to her choice to feed a quiet boy and protect him without question, Earth had a chance. It had a voice, and it had a beacon. That night, the diner glowed softly under the stars. The tables were full, not with customers, but with travelers. Some spoke in languages Mira didn't understand. Others just smiled and nodded. Lucy came back in. Wide-eyed. "Are we still a diner?" Mira laughed. "Kind of. Are we safe? For now." Lucy sat down and looked around. "You think that boy will ever come back?" Mira looked up at the sky. "He never really left." The stars were moving. At first, Mira thought it was just her imagination. But she stood outside the diner that night, eyes fixed on the sky. And she saw it clearly, 3 stars in a perfect line. Shifting. Not fast, but slowly and in the wrong direction. "They're not stars," said the voice beside her. Mira turned. It was the same traveler from before, the one with the green skin and calm eyes. "They're ships," he added. "Old ones, watching Are they the enemy? She asked. The traveler looked thoughtful. They were once. Now, they're just waiting. But others are coming behind them. Others who still want the signal silenced. Mira nodded. She had expected this inside the diner. The tables were full again. Humans and non-humans sat side by side, sharing stories in soft voices. No one raised their voice. No one made trouble. It was peaceful. Table 7 remained empty. Mira never let anyone sit there. That was Ben's table. As the night deepened, something shifted in the air. The glowing stone on the table began to pulse again. Not slow, like before, but steady, fast. Urgent. Mira felt it in her chest. A storm was coming. Suddenly, outside, the sky cracked open. A glowing rift tore through the clouds above the desert. It wasn't thunder. It was something far stranger, light bending, flashing, folding into itself. Then came the sound. A low hum, deep and powerful, like 1,000 engines. Lucy ran out from the kitchen. Mira, look. Mira stepped outside again. She already knew. The time had come. Across the sky, huge crafts appeared, black shapes moving like shadows. Not smooth like the watchers from before, but sharp-edged, cold, and full of anger. They found us, said the traveler, the real ones. The ones who believe your world doesn't deserve the code. Mira stood in front of the diner, hands by her side. She looked small under the stars, but her heart was steady. They can't erase us, she said. They'll try, he replied. From the ships above, small objects began to drop fast and glowing red. They weren't bombs, they were searchers. Machines designed to land, scan, and destroy what they found. The diner was their target. Inside, the visitors stood up. Many of them placed their hands on the glowing symbol carved into the floor. It had grown brighter over the past days. Now, shining like a star itself, Mira ran to the center. The symbol pulsed. The stone on table 7 rose slowly into the air and hovered. Then it split into. Everyone stared. Mira stepped forward and reached out. One half floated into her hand. The other remained spinning above the symbol. It's the gate, said the traveler. Ben left it into parts, one to open, one to protect. Mira didn't know what she was doing, but her heart did. She stepped to table 7, placed her half of the stone in the center, and whispered, Ben, if you're still with me, now's the time. The diner shook. Light burst from table 7, blue, white, and golden. It shot through the roof, into the sky, forming a perfect column of energy. The red machines dropped straight into it. And stopped, like insects frozen mid-flight. They hovered inside the light, powerless. Cheers rose inside the diner. The enemy. Machines had been blocked. But Mira wasn't done. She walked into the light. Her body didn't burn. It didn't hurt. Instead, she felt weightless, like her soul had become part of something bigger. Voices whispered around her. Hundreds, maybe. More. She didn't know the words, but she understood. They were messages. From others who had carried the code before. From other worlds, other protectors. And one voice stood out. Mira. She opened her eyes. Ben stood in front of her. Still a boy. Still silent but smiling now. His mouth didn't move, but his voice filled her heart. You became what we could not. Tears filled Mira's eyes. I was just a waitress, she said. That's why you were chosen. He held out his hand. And it was a memory floating, glowing, a scene from long ago. Mira saw herself as a child, feeding a stray dog outside a train station. A small act of kindness. Nothing important. Or so she thought. Kindness leaves a mark. Ben said, even across galaxies. He stepped back. You are now the voice. Earth will listen to you, and others will hear. The light faded slowly. Mira opened her eyes. She was back inside the diner. The stone halves were now one piece again, glowing softly. Outside, the black ships were gone. The red machines had fallen, lifeless. The sky was clear. The next morning, the sun rose over the desert. The diner was quiet. Again, most of the travelers had gone, called to other places, other missions. Some stayed behind to help rebuild. Mira served breakfast like always, eggs, toast, hot coffee. Lucy cleaned up, humming softly, but table 7 remained untouched. Until just after noon. The bell rang. A boy walked in. Not Ben, but someone like him. Quiet, calm, eyes that held too much for someone so young. He walked to table 7 and sat down. Mira placed a plate of warm food in front of him. On the house, she said. The boy smiled. Outside, far in the sky, something shimmered. A new world was waking. The sun was shining brighter than usual over the desert town. The wind was soft, the sky clear, and the world felt peaceful. It had been 3 weeks since the sky opened, since the ships came, and since Mira walked into the light. Life at the diner had slowly returned to normal, but nothing was truly the same. Mira still served pancakes. She still poured coffee. The chairs still squeaked, and the bell above the door still rang. But something deeper had changed. People came from all over now. Some were travelers from far cities. Others weren't from Earth at all, but no one noticed. Unless they looked closely, they blended in, sat quietly, shared meals, and sometimes said thank you in languages only the stars knew. The diner had become something more. A place of peace, a place of memory. A place of connection. Table 7 remained special. No one sat there unless they were called to. Some said they felt a strange pull to it. Others said they dreamed of it. And every time someone did sit at that table, Mira would serve them a meal, simple, warm, and free, just like she had for Ben. One evening, when the sky turned orange and gold, Lucy stood behind the counter, watching Mira clean a table. You ever miss the quiet days? Lucy asked. Mira smiled. They were never truly quiet. Lucy laughed softly. True, but now it feels like we're sitting in the middle of a story. We are, Mira said, wiping her hands. But not just one. Hundreds of stories, all meeting here. Lucy looked toward table 7. It was empty now. A warm beam of sunlight lit the chair. Do you think he'll ever come back? She asked. Mira didn't answer right away. She walked to the table and sat down slowly. Her hand reached into her apron pocket, pulling out the now smooth, cool stone Ben had left behind. It didn't glow anymore, but it still felt warm. She placed it gently on the table. I think he's always been here, Mira finally said, just in a different way. That night, after closing, Mira walked outside. The stars were out again, brighter than ever. She stood quietly under them, breathing in the cool night air. Then she saw a light streaking across the sky. It wasn't a plane. It wasn't a falling star. It moved like it had a purpose, like it was watching. She smiled. You see everything, don't you, Ben? She whispered. Then she heard footsteps behind her. She turned to see a child standing there. A girl, this time about 9 or 10 years old. Dark curly hair, wide green eyes, and clothes that didn't quite fit. Mira didn't ask where she came from. She simply said, Are you hungry? The girl nodded. Mira held out her hand. Comin'. The food's still warm. Inside the diner, Mira sat the girl at table 7. No one else was around. She brought her soup and bread, just like she had the first time Ben came. The girl ate slowly, carefully, her eyes watching everything. Then, without saying a word, she placed a small metal charm on the table. It looked like half a circle, smooth and silver. A new shape, a new message. Mira gently picked it up. She didn't know what it was, not yet, but she knew what it meant. The next chapter was beginning. Mira no longer questioned why she was chosen. She no longer asked why the stars had sent Ben, or why she had seen things no one else could. She knew now, some people fight wars, some people fly ships. And some people just make space for others to be seen, heard, and loved. That's what she had done. Not with weapons, not with power. But with kindness. With a meal. With an open sea. Word spread across the galaxy. Though most humans never knew it, there was a place on a quiet planet, in a desert town where anyone lost, tired, hunted, or afraid could sit at table 7 and be safe. A light had been lit there, and it would never go out. Epilogue. The boy who was not a boy far away in a sky Mira would never reach. Ben stood on a platform made of light. He looked older now, not in body, but in spirit. His eyes watched a map of stars move in front of him. A voice beside him spoke softly. She understood. Ben nodded. She remembered. Ben smiled. She changed everything. He looked down toward Earth, a small dot among millions. Then he turned and walked through a doorway that led to stars unknown. The mission was not over, but the light had been passed on, and it was burning strong. The end.